Your daughter's sweet 16 has to wait, Mom insisted over the phone. Your sister's kids have a school play this weekend. We can't miss their performance. I sat in my home office, phone pressed to my ear, watching my daughter Emma through the window as she scrolled through Pinterest boards of party decorations she'd been saving for months. Mom, we planned this 6 months ago. The venue is booked. The invitations went out 3 weeks ago. Well, you'll have to reschedule, she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Family comes first, and those children have been practicing for weeks. They're playing trees in the forest scene. Trees? They were playing non-speaking background trees. Emma's been planning this for a year, I said quietly. She's turning 16, not getting married. She can have a party next month. Your sister's children only get one chance to be in this play. My sister Lisa chimed in on the speakerphone. I hadn't realized she was listening. Come on, don't be selfish. Your daughter gets everything she wants. My kids barely get recognition for their achievements. Being a tree in a school play is an achievement? I asked. See? This is exactly why we need to be there for them. You've always diminished your niece and nephew's accomplishments. I looked at Emma again. She'd gotten straight A's this semester. She volunteered at the animal shelter every Saturday. She'd been saving her own money to help pay for party decorations because she knew money was tight. The party is happening on Saturday, I said. Then we won't be there, Mom stated flatly. Your father and I are driving to Springfield for the play. Your brother and his family are coming too. If you choose to be selfish and continue with this party, you'll be celebrating alone. Aunt Jessica and Uncle Tom are coming too, Lisa added. Nobody's going to miss a school play for a birthday party that can happen any time. It's her sweet 16. And it's my children's theatrical debut, Lisa shot back. But fine. Be selfish. Have your party. Just don't expect any of us to show up or send gifts. We'll remember this when Emma actually needs us for something important. The line went dead. I sat there for a moment staring at my phone. Then I walked to Emma's room. She looked up from her laptop and I could see she'd been crying. You heard. She nodded. It's okay, Mom. We can reschedule. I don't want to cause problems with Grandma and Grandpa. How much of that did you hear? All of it. The walls are thin. She closed her laptop. Maybe they're right. It's just a birthday. Their play is probably more important. I sat on her bed. What do you want to do? I want everyone to be happy, she said, which was the most Emma answer possible. If rescheduling makes that happen, then that's what we should do. That's not what I asked. What do you want? She was quiet for a long moment. I want my sweet 16 party on Saturday with my friends. I want the decorations we picked out. I want to feel special for one day. Her voice cracked. But I don't want to be the reason everyone's mad at you. No worries, I said, kissing her forehead. Let me handle this. That night after Emma went to bed, I opened my laptop and started researching. The community center had been affordable but basic. If my family wasn't going to show up anyway, there was no point in trying to impress them with conventional choices. I spent 2 hours looking at venues before I found it. Marina Bay Yacht Club. The photos showed elegant vessels with panoramic windows, hardwood decks, and sunset views that looked like paintings. I called first thing Tuesday morning. Marina Bay Yacht Club, this is Patrick speaking. Hi, I need to charter a yacht for this Saturday evening. It's for my daughter's 16th birthday party. Wonderful. Let me check our availability. Keyboard clicks echoed through the phone. We have the Serendipity available. She accommodates 40 guests comfortably and includes a full galley, upper and lower decks, and a professional sound system. What's the cost? For a 4-hour sunset cruise with our premium package, including full catering service, decorations, and a professional DJ, the total comes to $25,000. I didn't hesitate. Perfect. What do you need from me? The money represented 5 years of freelance graphic design work. Projects I took on after Emma went to bed. Clients I'd built relationships with through networking groups my family never asked about. They assumed I struggled financially because I was a single mom. They never bothered to learn I'd built a successful side business. We'll need a 50% deposit to secure the booking, and I'll email you our catering menu selections and decoration options. Send everything over. I'll have the deposit to you by the end of business today. After I hung up, I sat back and looked at my savings account balance. This would make a significant dent, but watching Emma's face light up when she saw that yacht would be worth every penny. I spent the rest of Tuesday coordinating details. A florist for the rose arrangements, a photographer for professional shots. I even arranged for a small fireworks display to happen as we returned to the dock, which added another $3,000 to the total. $28,000 for a birthday party. My family would lose their minds if they knew. Good. I didn't tell Emma about the change in plans. I just told her the party was still on for Saturday and to make sure her friends knew. On Wednesday, Mom called again. I heard you canceled the community center, she said. Good. I'm glad you came to your senses. We can do something small for Emma next month, after all the play excitement dies down. The venue had a scheduling conflict, I lied smoothly. But the party's still happening Saturday. Where? I found another place. Well, we still won't be there. I just wanted to make sure you weren't wasting money on something when family isn't even attending. Noted, I said and ended the call. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. I'd told Emma to dress nicely and bring her friends to the harbor instead of the community center. The confusion on her face was worth it. Mom, where are we going? You'll see. When we arrived at Marina Bay and she saw the yacht with Emma's Sweet 16 spelled out in roses along the side, she burst into tears. Mom, this is too much. We can't afford this. Let me worry about that. This is your night. Your friends are going to be here in an hour. We have a photographer, a DJ, a full dinner service and a sunset cruise around the bay. No family drama. No competing for attention. Just you and the people who actually care about celebrating you. The party was magical. 28 of Emma's friends showed up, all dressed in their best outfits. Girls in cocktail dresses and heels they weren't quite used to walking in. Boys in button-down shirts and dress pants, hair actually combed for once. The yacht departed exactly at 6 p.m. As we pulled away from the dock, a collective gasp went through the teenagers. The crew had transformed the upper deck into a wonderland of twinkling lights and white roses. The lower deck housed long tables decorated with gold and blush pink linens, exactly matching the color scheme Emma had been planning for months. Mom, this is insane, Emma whispered, gripping my arm. How did you do this? Magic, I said, kissing her temple. Now go enjoy your party. The catering staff, all in crisp white uniforms, began serving appetizers, gourmet sliders, shrimp cocktails, stuffed mushrooms. Food these kids had probably only seen in movies. I watched their eyes widen with each course. The yacht sailed around the bay as the sun began its descent. The DJ, a professional who'd worked celebrity events, read the crowd perfectly. One moment they were dancing to current pop hits, the next to throwback songs that had everyone singing along. Sophie and the other girls documented everything. The perfectly plated dinners, the moment Emma cut into her 3-tier cake, the sunset painting the sky in impossible shades of orange and pink, Emma dancing with her best friends, head thrown back in genuine laughter. I stayed mostly in the background watching from the upper deck railing. A crew member approached with a glass of champagne. Your daughter seems very happy, she said with a kind smile. That's all I wanted, I replied. At 8:30, as darkness fell completely, the DJ called everyone to the upper deck. I'd told Emma about this part. Make a wish, I said as the crew brought out her cake, 16 candles flickering in the ocean breeze. She closed her eyes and I wondered what she wished for. Probably something selfless, knowing Emma. Probably world peace or for everyone to just get along. She blew out the candles and her friends erupted in cheers. At 9 p.m. as we headed back toward the marina, the fireworks started. I hadn't told Emma about this part. Brilliant explosions of gold and silver lit up the night sky, reflecting off the dark water. Emma grabbed my hand, speechless, tears streaming down her face. Happy birthday, sweetheart, I whispered. The teenagers crowded at the railings, phones out, capturing every burst of color. More content for social media. More evidence of exactly how much this night cost. I felt my phone buzzing in my purse. I knew without looking that the Instagram stories had started making their rounds. Family members were probably already seeing them, probably already getting angry. I didn't care. At 9 p.m. my phone started buzzing. First Mom. Then Lisa. Then my brother. Then Aunt Jessica. I ignored them all. At 10, when the yacht docked and the party was winding down, I finally checked my messages. Mom, is that a wife? Are you serious right now? Lisa, you're spending thousands on a party but couldn't come support my children? My brother, this is really immature. Flaunting wealth while the family is at a school play. Aunt Jessica, your mother is crying. How could you be so spiteful? The Instagram stories had made their way through the family chain. Sophie had tagged Emma and Emma's profile was public. Every detail of the yacht party was on display. Lisa had called 3 times and left a voicemail. You're teaching your daughter terrible values. Spending money you probably don't have just to prove a point? We were at a beautiful play supporting children who actually worked hard for something and you're on a yacht? Grow up. I texted back only to Mom. Emma had a wonderful sweet 16. Hope the play was worth missing it. The next morning Mom showed up at my house unannounced. We need to talk about last night. There's nothing to talk about. Emma had her party. You went to the play. Everyone got what they wanted. You made us look terrible. Jessica's daughter saw those Instagram posts, and now she's asking why we weren't there. That's a good question. Why weren't you? Because those children needed us there. Emma is family. And she needed you there too. It's different. Your sister's kids don't get as many opportunities. Emma has a good life. She didn't need an extravagant party. You're right. She didn't need it. But she deserved it. And more than that, she deserved to have her family there. By spending money you don't have. You don't know what money I have. You've never asked about my freelance work. You assumed I was struggling because it fit your narrative. Lisa's car pulled up behind Mom's. Great. Are you kidding me right now? Lisa stormed up the driveway. My kids are devastated. They saw all the party photos and asked why they weren't invited to the yacht. Because they had a play to be in, I said simply. You did this on purpose. You wanted to make them feel bad. I did this for my daughter. Your kids' feelings about missing a party they weren't invited to aren't my problem. You're so selfish. You always have to be the center of attention. I didn't post anything. Emma's friends did. And yes, I rented a yacht. Because my daughter deserved to feel special. And since her family wasn't going to be there, I made sure she had an unforgettable celebration anyway. Mom stepped between us. This family is falling apart because you couldn't just be flexible. No, Mom. This family has a problem because Emma's sweet 16 was less important to you than watching kids play trees. You made that choice. I just made sure Emma didn't suffer for it. We were going to take her out for a nice dinner next month, Mom protested. She didn't want a nice dinner next month. She wanted her family at her sweet 16 party. But you made your priorities clear. My brother pulled up next. Apparently, this was turning into a family meeting I hadn't agreed to. You couldn't just let this go, he said, walking up. You had to embarrass everyone? I didn't embarrass anyone. I threw my daughter a party. You're embarrassed because now everyone can see the choice you made. It was a school play. It was trees. Background trees. And you chose that over your niece's 16th birthday. The argument continued on my front lawn for another 20 minutes. Neighbors were definitely watching. Finally, I'd had enough. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice calm but firm. You're all going to leave my property. Emma and I are going to enjoy the rest of our weekend. And the next time there's a family event, you're going to remember that choices have consequences. You're being ridiculous, Lisa said. Am I? You want to talk about ridiculous? Ridiculous is expecting me to cancel my daughter's party for a school play. Ridiculous is calling me selfish while demanding I prioritize your kids over mine. Ridiculous is showing up at my house the next day to scold me for giving my daughter a beautiful memory. I walked to my front door. You're welcome to apologize to Emma whenever you're ready. Until then, we're done here. I closed the door on their protests. Inside, Emma was sitting on the stairs. She'd heard everything. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Yes, I did. You deserved better than their scraps of attention. And you deserve to know that someone will always choose you first. She hugged me, crying into my shoulder. Thank you for the best birthday ever. You're welcome, sweetheart. My phone buzzed with more angry messages throughout the day. Family group chats discussing how inappropriate my behavior was, how I damaged family relationships, how I was teaching Emma to be materialistic. I left all the group chats and blocked the numbers that wouldn't stop. By Monday, extended family members who hadn't even been involved were messaging me, asking me to apologize and make things right. I didn't respond to any of them. What I did do was frame my favorite photo from the yacht party. Emma surrounded by her friends, genuine joy on her face, the sunset golden behind them. That photo sits on my desk now. A reminder that sometimes choosing your child means disappointing everyone else. And I'd make the same choice again in a heartbeat. The first voicemail came at 6:47 a.m. Honey, it's Mom. Call me back. It's about your sister's girls. It's urgent. I was making breakfast for my son when my phone buzzed again. And again. By the time I'd poured his cereal, there were 6 missed calls. My husband glanced at my phone. Your family. Who else? I silenced it and focused on getting our son ready for school. The calls continued through morning drop-off. Text messages flooded in between them. By the time I reached my office, my phone had become a constant buzz of notifications. By noon my voicemail was full, 30 messages in 6 hours. I finally listened to one during my lunch break sitting in my car with the doors locked. Mom's voice was shrill, panicked. Your nieces need help. Sarah lost her job and the girls can't afford their apartment anymore. You have money sitting there for college. $50,000 just sitting in an account. Your son is only 8 years old. He doesn't need it yet. The girls need it now. Family helps family. That's what we do. That's how I raised you. Call me back immediately. The next message was from Sarah herself, her voice thick with tears. Mom told me you had savings. I didn't want to ask, but I'm desperate. Please. We're family. Another was from my oldest niece. And I know we don't talk much, but I'm about to lose everything. My credit is ruined. I can't get another apartment. Please help. I deleted them all and called my sister directly. Finally. Sarah answered, her voice sharp with both relief and irritation. Mom said you've been ignoring us all morning. We've been trying to reach you for hours. What's going on, Sarah? What's going on? What's going on is that my daughters are about to be homeless. That's what's going on. The girls are struggling, both of them. Rent is due in 3 days. Tuition payments are overdue. Car insurance lapsed. They're drowning and I can't help them. I lost my position at the firm, remember? I'm barely keeping my own head above water. She paused and I could hear her take a breath, steadying herself for the ask. I know you have that college fund for your son. Mom said it's around $50,000 by now. That would solve everything. It would give the girls time to get back on their feet, find new jobs and catch up on everything. My stomach dropped. The casual way she said it, like she was asking to borrow a cup of sugar. You want me to give you my son's college fund? Not give. More like, reallocate. It's just sitting there doing nothing. You won't need it for 10 years, maybe more. We need it right now. Today. This week. Your family. This is what family does. We help each other when times are hard. Sarah, that money is for my son's education. We've been saving since he was born. And my daughters are drowning right now. What kind of aunt are you? What kind of sister? I'm sorry you're struggling, but the answer is no. The line went dead. Within an hour my phone exploded. Mom, Sarah, my nieces, even my aunt from Florida. The messages were all variations of the same theme. Selfish, heartless, forgetting where I came from. My niece sent a photo of an eviction notice. This is on you. The other niece wrote, guess college is more important than family. Hope you can live with yourself. Mom's voicemail said, I didn't raise you to be this cold. Your father would be ashamed. I showed my husband the messages that evening. He read through them, his jaw tightening. They're trying to guilt you into giving away our son's future. I know. You said no, right? Of course I said no. He nodded. Then block them. This is harassment. But I didn't block them. Some part of me thought they'd calm down, realize how inappropriate they were being and apologize. I was wrong. Day 2 brought 32 more voicemails. I made the mistake of listening to 5 of them over breakfast while my son watched cartoons. Mom said, it's been 24 hours and you still haven't called back. Do you know what that's doing to your sister? She's having panic attacks. The girls are terrified. And you're just sitting there with all that money doing nothing. My niece, I had to drop out of my classes today. Couldn't pay tuition. Thanks a lot, Aunt. Really appreciate the family support. My aunt from Florida, who I'd seen twice in my entire life. Your mother is beside herself. I can't believe you'd let your own flesh and blood suffer like this. What happened to you? A cousin. Sarah told us everything. $50,000 is nothing to you, but it's everything to them. Why are you being like this? My sister created a family group chat specifically to pressure me. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had strong opinions about my selfishness. People who'd never asked about my life, my son, or my struggles were now experts on my moral obligations. Sarah sent a breakdown of how she'd spend the money. $15,000 for back rent and deposits, $20,000 for tuition payments, $10,000 for car repairs and insurance, $5,000 for living expenses. She'd planned the entire budget using my son's college fund. Mom escalated. Your sister is on the verge of a breakdown. Her daughters are suffering. You have the power to fix this and you're choosing not to. What does that say about you? My aunt, family is supposed to support each other. When did you become so selfish? A cousin, wow. Wow. You'd let your nieces become homeless. I tried one more time to reason with them. I sent a message to the group chat. I understand you're struggling. But this money was saved specifically for my son's education. It's not emergency money. It's not disposable income. It's his future. I can't give it away. Sarah's response came immediately. Can't or won't. You just don't want to help us. Mom, you always were the selfish one. Even as a child. My niece, thanks for nothing, Aunt. Really showing your true colors. The attacks became personal. They brought up every childhood slight, every perceived failure, every time I'd supposedly chosen myself over family. They rewrote history to paint me as the villain of every family story. By day 4 there were 47 voicemails. I listened to 3 before my husband found me crying in our bedroom. That's it, he said. This ends now. They're my family. Family doesn't do this. This is abuse. He was right. I knew he was right. But the guilt was overwhelming. What if they really were struggling? What if I could help and I was just being selfish? My husband sat beside me. Let me ask you something. When's the last time your mom asked how you were doing? When's the last time Sarah called just to talk? When did your nieces last visit their cousin? I couldn't remember. They only call when they need something. And when you can't give it, you're the villain. That's not family. That's exploitation. That night, I lay awake thinking about every interaction with my family over the past 5 years. My husband was right. Every call, every visit, every text had an agenda. Money for this, help with that. Could we babysit? Could we loan our car? Could we co-sign? And when we said no, we were selfish. Heartless. Forgetting our roots. I'd been conditioned to feel guilty for having boundaries. The next morning I made a decision. I texted the group chat one final message. Do not contact me or my family again. Any further communication will be considered harassment. Then I blocked every number. My husband and I had been discussing a move for months. His company had offered him a position in Dublin. We'd been hesitant because of family, because of roots, because leaving felt like abandonment. Now it felt like liberation. I called his office. Tell them yes. We'll take the Dublin position. We worked fast. I researched international schools while my husband coordinated with his Dublin office. Within 2 weeks we accomplished what normally takes months. We hired international movers and paid extra for expedited service. We enrolled our son in a highly rated international school that specialized in helping relocated families adjust. We began the visa process, filing paperwork and gathering documents. I contacted a property management company and listed our house as a corporate rental for executives on temporary assignment. The rent would cover the mortgage and then some. We set up mail forwarding to a private P.O. box at a commercial facility, not connected to any relative or friend. We transferred our savings to international accounts, splitting funds across 3 different banks in 2 countries for security. I closed our local accounts and opened new ones with different institutions. I removed my mother, sister, and nieces from any emergency contact lists at our son's old school, our doctors, everywhere. I called our insurance companies and updated everything to reflect our new status. Every step felt like shedding weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. I didn't tell my family. They were blocked and I intended to keep it that way. The night before our flight I changed our phone numbers. New country, new numbers, completely untraceable. We landed in Dublin on a Tuesday morning. By evening we were settling into corporate housing, jet-lagged but relieved. I didn't check my old voicemail. I didn't look at social media. I focused on helping my son adjust, on starting fresh, on building a life where boundaries were respected. 3 weeks later, my husband's office forwarded a package. Inside was a letter from my mother, addressed to his work because it was the only way to reach us. The letter was 8 pages long. It started with anger. How dare we disappear? How dare we abandon family? Did we think we were too good for them now? Then came guilt. Sarah was in crisis. The girls had been evicted. They'd lost everything. Mom had to take them in. Her fixed income couldn't support everyone. They were struggling and it was my fault. Then came the demands. Wire money immediately. They needed $30,000 just to survive. I owed them this. Family doesn't abandon family. The final page contained threats. She'd find us. She'd tell everyone what kind of person I really was. She'd make sure my son knew what his mother did to his cousins. My husband read it over my shoulder. Your mom got your sister and nieces evicted? What? He pointed to a line on the 3rd page. She says here that she told Sarah you'd definitely give them the money. Sarah used that promise to delay payments. When you didn't pay, everything collapsed. I reread the section. He was right. Mom had guaranteed I'd pay. She'd convinced Sarah to spend money she didn't have based on that guarantee. When I refused, their house of cards fell. And somehow this was my fault. They created their own crisis, my husband said gently. Your mom made promises with your money. Sarah spent based on those promises. You didn't cause this. They did. I threw the letter away. Over the next month, letters arrived at my husband's office weekly, each more desperate than the last, each blaming me for circumstances they'd created themselves. Mom's letters revealed more than she intended. Sarah had quit her job voluntarily, expecting to live off the money I'd supposedly give. My nieces had taken out loans for expensive apartments, certain their generous aunt would cover it. Mom had told extended family I was paying, accepting praise for raising such a giving daughter. They'd built an entire financial structure on money that wasn't theirs, from a person who'd never agreed to give it. When that structure collapsed, I became the villain for not funding their fantasy. The letters eventually stopped. I assumed they realized we weren't coming back, weren't sending money, weren't engaging. Life in Dublin was peaceful. My son thrived in his new school. My husband loved his position. I found work I enjoyed. We made friends who respected boundaries, who didn't view relationships as transactions. 6 months after we left, I received a friend request on a social media platform I rarely used. It was from a cousin who hadn't been part of the harassment. I accepted. She messaged immediately, I need to tell you what's happening back home. My stomach tightened, but I let her continue. Your mom has been telling everyone you stole from the family. She says you took money that was meant to help Sarah and disappeared. She's playing victim and people believe her. She's lying. I know. I saw the group chat messages before you left. I saw how they treated you. But she's convinced everyone else that you're the bad guy. She's even started a fundraiser, claiming she needs to raise money to replace what you took. I felt sick. I never took anything. I know. But she's rewriting history. I thought you should know. Part of me wanted to fight back, to tell the truth, to defend myself. But another part, the part that had found peace in Dublin, realized something important. Their opinion didn't matter anymore. Thanks for telling me, I messaged back. But I'm not engaging. They can say whatever they want. You're not going to correct the record? No. Anyone who knows me knows the truth. Anyone who believes her without asking my side isn't someone I need in my life. It was liberating. My family had spent years conditioning me to believe their approval mattered, that family loyalty meant sacrificing myself, that saying no made me selfish. Distance gave me clarity. They weren't family. They were people who happened to share my DNA, who'd learned they could manipulate me with guilt, who viewed me as a resource rather than a person. Real family doesn't harass you with 47 voicemails demanding money. Real family doesn't plan budgets with funds that aren't theirs. Real family doesn't threaten, guilt, and manipulate. A year after we moved, my son asked about my family back home. Don't we have grandparents? Aunts? Cousins? I chose my words carefully. We have people who are related to us. But family is more than DNA. Family is people who love and respect you. Sometimes those are relatives. Sometimes they're not. So we don't talk to them because they don't respect us? Exactly. He thought about this. That makes sense. I like our family better now anyway. So did I. Our life in Dublin wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We built it on honesty, boundaries, and mutual respect. We surrounded ourselves with people who valued us. And somewhere back home, my mother was probably still telling everyone I'd stolen from the family, still playing victim, still refusing to acknowledge her role in the crisis she'd created. I didn't care anymore. The college fund remained untouched, growing steadily for my son's future. The future we'd protected by refusing to give in to manipulation. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do for family is walk away. And sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. I learned both lessons the hard way. But I learned them. The dinner was at my mother's house, the same house where every family gathering turned into an unspoken competition. It was a Saturday evening in late April, just 2 weeks before my son Aiden's high school graduation. The table was full. My mother sat at the head, my brother David to her right, his wife beside him, and their 2 kids across the table. Aiden sat quietly near the end, picking at his food, saying very little. That was nothing new. Aiden had always been the quiet one. He was 18, lean, with dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead, and he had a habit of observing people before he ever said a word. Some people mistook that for shyness. Others called it awkwardness. My brother David called it weakness. David had always been the loud one in the family. He was 34, ran a small insurance firm, and carried himself like he had already won every room he ever walked into. He had a habit of steering conversations toward himself, and no one in the family ever pushed back. My mother loved him for it. She loved confidence even when it came dressed as arrogance. The conversation started normally enough. My mother asked about school, about plans after graduation. Aiden answered briefly. Yes, he had applied to universities. Yes, he had a few acceptances. He did not elaborate, and no one pressed him. Then David leaned back in his chair and looked at Aiden with that half-smile he always wore when he was about to say something he thought was clever. So Aiden, David said loud enough for the whole table. You got a girlfriend yet, or are you still afraid to talk to girls? A few people laughed. Not hard, not cruelly, but in that way families do when someone says something they know is a joke but also know is not entirely a joke. Aiden looked up. He did not flush. He did not look away. He just said, "No, I don't have a girlfriend, Uncle David." David nodded like that confirmed something. The family failure, he said, raising his glass toward Aiden in a mock toast. Don't worry, kid. Not everyone can be a people person. My mother smiled. My brother's wife nudged him gently, but she was smiling too. My sister-in-law did not correct him. No one at that table corrected him. I watched Aiden's face. He did not react. He folded his napkin carefully, set it beside his plate, and said, "I think I'll head out. Thank you for dinner, Grandma." He kissed my mother on the cheek, nodded at the rest of the table, and walked out the front door without another word. I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell David that his idea of humor was cruel, that mocking a teenager in front of his family was not funny, that the boy had done nothing to deserve it. But I did not. I sat there and said nothing, and that silence is something I have carried with me ever since. After that dinner, I did not hear much from Aiden for a few weeks. He texted me short messages. He was busy, he said. Preparing for something. I assumed it was graduation related, maybe rehearsals or paperwork for the ceremony. I did not ask too many questions. He was 18. He was allowed to have his own space. What I did not know at the time was that Aiden had been working towards something for months. Not just weeks. Months. He had been elected student council president the previous fall, a fact he had mentioned exactly once in passing and then never brought up again. He was not the type to broadcast his achievements. He earned them, acknowledged them privately, and moved on. I knew he was involved in student activities, but I had no idea about the scope of it. He was also the captain and lead speaker of the school's competitive debate team. This was not a casual hobby. The team had qualified for the state championship that year, and Aiden had been their anchor speaker in every round. He had started on the team as a sophomore, sitting in the back of the room during practices, barely speaking. By junior year, the coach had moved him to the front. By senior year, opposing teams knew his name before the rounds even started. He had a gift for standing in front of a room full of strangers and making them listen. Not through volume but through stillness. Through precision. He could take a complex argument and break it down so clearly that even someone who disagreed with him found themselves nodding before they realized what had happened. His coach told me later that in 3 years of coaching, She had never seen a student handle pressure the way Aiden did. He simply did not let it in. But none of this was public knowledge to our family. I did not know about the debate team until weeks later. My mother did not know. David certainly did not know. Aiden had kept it all quiet, not out of false modesty, but because he simply did not see the need to perform his life for other people. The graduation ceremony was scheduled for a Thursday evening at the high school auditorium. It was a large school, nearly 400 graduates in the class, and the auditorium held close to 1,000 people. My mother had already claimed a row of seats near the front. David and his wife were coming. A few other extended family members had confirmed. I arrived early with my mother. The auditorium was filling up quickly, parents and siblings and grandparents settling into their seats with programs and phones and that particular restless energy that comes before a long ceremony. David arrived about 20 minutes before it started, his wife on his arm, looking bored but polite. "Big night for the family failure," David said as he sat down, grinning. My mother laughed quietly. I said nothing. The ceremony began with the usual speeches. The principal spoke about growth and opportunity. A local politician congratulated the class. It was standard, forgettable, the kind of ceremony people endure rather than enjoy. Then the program shifted. The vice principal stepped back to the microphone and introduced the next segment of the evening. There would be 2 student addresses before the diplomas were awarded. The first was from the outgoing student council president. The second was from a student selected by the faculty to deliver a closing address on behalf of the graduating class. Both speakers, the vice principal explained, were the same person. The name on the screen behind the stage appeared in plain text. It was Aiden's name. I watched David's face. He was reading the program in his lap. He looked up at the screen, then back down at the program as if trying to reconcile 2 different pieces of information. His wife leaned over and whispered something. He shook his head slightly. Aiden walked onto the stage. He was wearing the same kind of clothes he always wore. Dark pants, a simple button-down shirt, no tie. He looked calm. Not nervous, not performative, not trying to project anything other than what he already was. He stepped up to the microphone, adjusted it slightly, and looked out at the auditorium. The room quieted. He did not begin with a joke or a crowd pleaser. He began with a question. How many of you have been told at some point in your life that you are not enough? Pause. Not a dramatic one. A genuine one, as if he actually wanted people to sit with the question. Not in those exact words maybe, but in smaller ways. Someone looked at you and decided before you ever opened your mouth what you were capable of. Someone told you that your interests did not matter. That your way of moving through the world was wrong. That you were too quiet, too strange, too slow, too much, or not enough of something. He paused again, and in that pause the auditorium was completely still. I have been told that my entire life, he said. And for a long time I believed it. He spoke for 12 minutes. Not a second more, not a second less. He talked about what it meant to grow up feeling invisible in your own family. He did not name anyone. He did not point fingers or call anyone out publicly. He spoke in general terms, but anyone who knew him, anyone who had watched him navigate family gatherings, understood exactly what he was referring to. He talked about finding his voice not through confrontation but through preparation. About learning that silence was not weakness but strategy. About discovering that the best response to someone who underestimates you is not anger. It is becoming undeniable. He talked about the debate team, about standing in front of judges and opponents who had every reason to dismiss him and choosing, every single time, to prove them wrong through the quality of his thinking rather than the volume of his reaction. He talked about what it meant to be the kind of person who does the work without needing anyone to see it, who earns things not for recognition but because the work itself is the point. And he finished with this. The people who told me I was not enough were not evil. They were just wrong. And the most powerful thing I ever learned was that I did not need their permission to find that out for myself. He stepped back from the microphone. He did not bow. He did not wave. He simply walked off the stage and back to his seat among the other graduates. The applause started slowly, the way it does when a room is still processing what it has just heard. Then it built. Within seconds, it was the loudest sound in that auditorium all evening. Parents were standing. Teachers were standing. It went on for nearly a full minute before the vice principal stepped back up to thank him and move the ceremony along. I turned to look at David. He was not clapping. He was sitting very still, his hands resting on his knees, staring at the stage. His wife was applauding, but he was not. His face was not angry or embarrassed exactly. It was something closer to recognition. The slow, uncomfortable kind that comes when you realize you have been measuring someone by the wrong standard for a very long time. My mother was crying. Not because she was proud, though she was. She was crying because she had sat at that dinner table and laughed. And now she was sitting in an auditorium watching her grandson tell an entire room of strangers that the people who were supposed to believe in him had failed him. And she knew without him ever saying her name that she was part of that failure. After the ceremony, we waited in the lobby. Families were milling around, taking photos, congratulating graduates. Aiden came out in his cap and gown, looking tired but content. A few teachers stopped him on the way out. One of them, an older woman who taught American history, shook his hand and said something I could not hear. Aiden nodded and thanked her. When he reached us, my mother hugged him for a long time. She did not say anything about the speech at first. She just held him and said, "I am proud of you." Aiden hugged her back and said, "Thank you, Grandma." David stepped forward. He did not hug Aiden. He stood in front of him for a moment, and there was an awkwardness between them that had not existed before. Or rather had existed all along but had never been acknowledged. "That was a good speech," David said. "Thank you," Aiden said. David nodded. He opened his mouth as if to say something else, then closed it. His wife put her hand on his arm and they walked toward the parking lot without another word. I drove Aiden home that night. We did not talk much on the way. He leaned his head against the window and watched the streetlights pass. About halfway home he said, "I wasn't trying to embarrass anyone." "I know," I said. "I just wanted to say what was true." "I know that too." He was quiet for another minute. Then he said, "Do you think he heard it?" I thought about David's face in that auditorium. The stillness. The recognition. "Yeah," I said. "I think he heard it." Aiden nodded and did not say anything else the rest of the way home. 2 days after the graduation, David called me. Not to talk about the ceremony, not directly. He called to ask if Aiden would be open to having coffee sometime. Just the two of them. No agenda, he said. He just wanted to talk. I told him I would pass the message along. Aiden, when I mentioned it, was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Sure. I'll do that." They met at a coffee shop the following Saturday. I do not know everything they said to each other. Aiden told me later that David apologized plainly and without excuses for the things he had said over the years, not just at that dinner but for all of it. He said he had spent a long time thinking of Aiden as someone who needed to be toughened up, and that he had mistaken cruelty for lessons. Aiden said he appreciated it. He said he did not hold a grudge. He said he had never been angry at David, not really. He had just been tired of being seen as something he was not. David listened. And for the first time in a long time he did not have a clever response. He just listened. That coffee lasted 2 hours. When Aiden came home afterward, he seemed lighter than I had seen him in months. Not because the wound had been healed entirely. Wounds like that take longer than one conversation. But because someone had finally acknowledged that the wound existed. And sometimes that is all it takes to begin. The July heat pressed down on my parents' backyard as I flipped burgers on the grill. My daughter, Maya, sat on the patio, her laptop balanced on her knees, fingers flying across the keyboard. Still at it. I called over. She nodded without looking up. 12 years old and already more focused than most adults I knew. My sister Jennifer arrived late, her minivan releasing her 3 kids into the yard. Tyler was 14, Madison 12, and Brandon 10. They scattered toward the pool. "Sorry we're late," Jennifer said, not sounding sorry. She carried store-bought potato salad and wore oversized sunglasses. Traffic was insane. It was Sunday at noon. There was no traffic. I just smiled and went back to the grill. Jennifer had always been competitive. Everything needed to be compared, evaluated. When I bought my first house, she bought bigger. When Maya was born, Jennifer spent the hospital visit talking about how advanced Tyler had been. "Where's David?" Mom asked, meaning Jennifer's husband. "Golf tournament. Big client thing." Jennifer waved her hand dismissively and headed straight for the cooler. The afternoon progressed normally. Kids splashed, adults traded stories. Maya stayed on the patio with her laptop. "What's she doing over there?" Jennifer asked around 3 o'clock. "Working on a project." "A project?" "It's summer vacation." I shrugged. "She enjoys it." Jennifer's expression shifted into that mix of skepticism and superiority. Too much screen time is terrible for developing brains. Madison only gets 2 hours a day. I didn't take the bait. But Jennifer wasn't done. She walked over to where Maya sat. "Hey, sweetie," Jennifer said. "What are you working on?" Maya glanced up briefly. "Code." "Code? Like computer code?" "Yeah." Jennifer laughed. "That's cute. Tyler took a coding class last semester. Got an A. He could probably help you if you're stuck." "I'm not stuck," Maya said quietly, her eyes back on the screen. "I started walking over, some instinct telling me to intervene, but I was too slow." "You've been on that thing all day," Jennifer continued. "Why don't you take a break?" "I need to finish this." "Finish what?" "It's just a hobby." "You're 12. Jennifer's tone had shifted to irritation. Maya didn't respond, her fingers still moving across the keyboard. That's when Jennifer made her move. "Actually," she said, reaching down toward the laptop, "Tyler's tablet died and he's bored out of his mind. Why don't you let him use your computer for a bit? My kids need it more than you do right now." Maya's hands stopped. She looked up at Jennifer with an expression I'd never seen on my daughter's face before. Something cold and calculating. "My kids need it more?" Maya repeated slowly. "Well, yes. You've been hogging it all day and Tyler is actually interested in technology. He wants to check his gaming stats." The entire patio went quiet. Everyone was watching. Maya smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "For what?" she asked. "They can't even turn it on." Jennifer's face flushed red. "Excuse me. Your kids. They can't turn on my laptop. It requires biometric authentication and a 16-digit passkey. Even if they could get past that, they wouldn't know what to do with what's on here." Everyone froze. Jennifer's mouth opened and closed. "That's incredibly rude. I'm your aunt and I'm asking you nicely to share." Maya closed her laptop and stood up. At 12, she was already almost as tall as Jennifer. "This is why Dad bought it." She walked to the patio table and opened the laptop. The screen showed lines of code, graphs, data visualizations, and a complex dashboard. "What is that?" my mother asked, moving closer. "It's an application I've been developing," Maya said calmly. "It's a resource management system for small medical practices. It tracks patient scheduling, inventory, billing cycles, and automates appointment reminders. I started building it 6 months ago." The silence was deafening. "You built that?" Uncle Robert asked. "He owned a dental practice. I'm still working on it. The version I'm finishing today will be submitted to the Youth Technology Innovation Competition next week. First place is a $50,000 scholarship and mentorship with software developers at." Jennifer's face had gone from red to pale. "You're 12. I know how old I am." Maya's voice was perfectly even. "I also know that Tyler failed his intro to coding class. Madison told me at party. She said he copied his final project from YouTube and still got a C." "That's not," Jennifer started. "And I know your kids can't turn on my laptop because last Thanksgiving Tyler tried to use it while I was in the bathroom. He guessed the password wrong 5 times and locked himself out. I had to reset the entire security system." I stared at my daughter. When had this happened? How had I not known? Maya turned the laptop around so everyone could see the screen better. "This module here handles insurance verification. This one manages supply reordering based on usage patterns. And this section creates automated financial reports. Uncle Robert, you said last month that your office manager spends 6 hours a week just on scheduling conflicts. My app would reduce that to about 20 minutes. Robert leaned in, his eyes wide. "Are you serious? I'm happy to show you the demo. I've been testing it with Dr. Patterson down the street. She's a pediatrician. She says it's already saved her practice about 15 hours of administrative work per week." "Dr. Patterson?" Mom asked. "Our neighbor. She's also one of my references for the competition." Maya pulled up another window showing an email exchange. "She's agreed to provide a testimonial about the real-world application and effectiveness." Jennifer found her voice, though it came out strangled. "This is ridiculous. You expect us to believe a 12-year-old built professional software." "I don't expect anything," Maya said. "I'm just explaining why I can't let Tyler use my laptop. The source code alone represents about 800 hours of work. The testing database has real patient data that Dr. Patterson anonymized for me. It's password protected and encrypted. Even if your kids could turn it on, which they can't, I'd never let anyone access this without supervision. 800 hours? I heard myself say. Maya looked at me and for the first time, I saw nervousness flicker across her face. I know I should have told you more about it. But you bought me this laptop for my birthday and said I could use it however I wanted. So I did. My head was spinning. I'd bought her the laptop because she'd asked for it, shown me her grades in computer class, and convinced me she was serious about learning programming. I thought she was taking online tutorials, maybe building basic websites. Not this. Let me get this straight, Uncle Robert said slowly. You built a medical practice management system from scratch. At 12. The database architecture is adapted from open-source frameworks, Maya said, like that was supposed to clarify anything. But yes, the application layer, user interface and integration protocols are all original code. About 42,000 lines so far. Tyler had wandered over from the pool, dripping water on the patio. I don't get it. What's the big deal? It's just a computer program. Maya looked at him. Tyler, can you code in Python? I mean, a little. We learned some in class. Can you implement a RESTful API? Silence. Can you write SQL queries to manage relational databases? More silence. Do you understand object-oriented programming principles, asynchronous processing, or how to secure authentication tokens? Tyler's face was bright red now. Shut up. You're just trying to sound smart. I'm trying to explain why you can't use my laptop. Maya's voice remained calm. This isn't a toy. It's a professional development environment. And yes, I do sound smart because I've spent 800 hours learning how to build something useful instead of playing video games. Jennifer exploded. How dare you speak to my son like that? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You've let her become arrogant and antisocial, staring at screens instead of developing normal social skills. Jennifer, my father said quietly. It was the voice he used to use when we were kids and things had gone too far. Maybe sit down. I will not sit down. She's being incredibly disrespectful and nobody's correcting her. She's answering your question, I said, finding my voice finally. You asked why she couldn't share her laptop. She's explaining. By insulting my children. By stating facts, Maya said. I wasn't trying to insult anyone. Tyler asked what the big deal was. I explained. The competition judges will ask me similar questions. If I can't answer them clearly, I won't win. Competition, Jennifer scoffed. What competition is going to take a 12-year-old seriously? Maya pulled up another window. The Youth Technology Innovation Competition is sponsored by the National Science Foundation and Google. Last year's winner was 15 and developed an algorithm for predicting flood patterns. She's now working with NOAA. The year before, a 13-year-old created an app that helps identify skin cancer early. It's being tested in clinical trials. She scrolled down to show a list of past winners. Their ages, their projects, where they were now. Stanford. Starting their own companies. Getting patents. The preliminary judging is based on submitted code and documentation, Maya continued. If I make it to the finals, I'll present in Seattle in August. The judges are actual software engineers and technology executives. They don't care how old you are. They care if your code works. Uncle Robert was scrolling through something on his phone. I'm looking at this competition website. The application requirements are insane. You need letters of recommendation from technology professionals, documentation of your development process, security audits if you're handling any kind of sensitive data. He looked up at Maya. You have all this? Dr. Patterson wrote one recommendation. My computer science teacher wrote another. And I hired a freelance security consultant to audit my code last month. It cost me all my birthday money, but she found 3 vulnerabilities I'd missed. You hired a security consultant? I asked weakly. You can find them on freelance sites. He was really nice. She also gave me some advice about how to improve my encryption. Jennifer was still sputtering, but no one was paying attention to her anymore. My mother had pulled up a chair next to Maya, asking questions about how the app worked. Uncle Robert was taking notes on his phone. My father was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Tyler had slunk back to the pool, his face burning. Madison and Brandon were watching from a distance, whispering to each other. So when you said you were working on a project, I said to Maya, you meant this. The whole time. She nodded. I didn't want to say too much until it was done. What if I couldn't finish it? What if it didn't work? I wanted to have something real before I told everyone. This is definitely real, Robert said. Maya, I'm serious about wanting to see a demo. If this does what you say it does, I know at least a dozen dentists who would pay for something like this. The competition rules say I can't commercialize it until after judging, Maya said. But if I don't win, or after I do, I was thinking about licensing it. I've been reading about how to set up an LLC. Of course she had. Jennifer grabbed her purse. We're leaving. I don't have to sit here and watch my children be humiliated by some show-off who thinks she's better than everyone. I don't think I'm better than everyone, Maya said quietly. I just work really hard at something I care about. Come on, kids. Jennifer shouted. Get your stuff. Now. Tyler, Madison, and Brandon scrambled to gather their things, shooting glances at Maya that ranged from resentful to awed. Jennifer herded them toward the minivan, her face tight with anger. At the car she turned back. You know what? I hope you lose. I hope you get to that competition and realize you're not as special as you think you are. Real life doesn't reward arrogant little girls who talk back to their elders. Maya didn't respond. She just sat back down at her laptop and resumed typing. Jennifer slammed the minivan door and peeled out of the driveway. The rest of us stood in awkward silence for a moment. Then Uncle Robert laughed. Well, that was something. I'm sorry, I said to Maya. I should have stepped in earlier. She shrugged, not looking up from her screen. It's okay. Aunt Jennifer's always like that. Still. And I'm sorry I didn't know more about what you were doing. Maya, this is incredible. Now she looked up and she was smiling. A real smile this time. You really think so? Are you kidding? I'm terrified and proud in equal measure. My mother came over and hugged Maya from behind. When do you find out about the competition? Preliminary results in 3 weeks. Finals in August if I make it. You'll make it, Robert said confidently. And when you do, I'm buying everyone tickets to Seattle. We're all going to watch you win. Maya ducked her head, embarrassed but pleased. I might not win. But you might, my father said. And that's what your aunt can't stand, the possibility that you might actually be as good as you think you are. We finished the barbecue with a lighter mood, though Jennifer's absence left an obvious gap. Tyler had forgotten his water bottle and none of us felt like calling to return it. Later, after everyone had left and Maya was still working on her laptop at the kitchen table, I sat down next to her. Hey, I said. Hey. I'm proud of you. Not just for the app but for how you handled yourself today. She saved her work and closed the laptop. I didn't mean to make Tyler feel bad. I know. But sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Aunt Jennifer's really mad. Aunt Jennifer's really jealous, I corrected. There's a difference. Maya considered this. Do you think I'm arrogant? I thought about how to answer that. I think you're confident. You've earned the right to be. That's not the same as arrogant. Tyler couldn't answer any of my questions. No, he couldn't. But you already knew that before you asked them. She had the grace to look slightly guilty. Maybe a little. Next time maybe dial it back just a touch. You can be right without making someone else feel small. Okay. She paused. Dad. Yeah. Thanks for buying me the laptop. I smiled. Thanks for using it for something amazing. 3 weeks later Maya got the email. She'd made it to the finals. Top 15 out of over 3,000 applicants nationwide. I called everyone to share the news. My parents cried. Uncle Robert immediately booked flights to Seattle. I didn't call Jennifer. But somehow she heard anyway. The next family gathering would be interesting. I should have known better than to bring Emma to my mother's 70th birthday party. But hope is a dangerous thing, especially when it comes to family. I kept thinking that maybe this time would be different. Maybe seeing her only granddaughter would soften something in her. The country club ballroom was decorated with white roses and gold ribbons. My mother sat at the head table in her emerald dress, holding court like the queen she'd always imagined herself to be. My sister Jennifer's 3 children surrounded her, laughing at her jokes and posing for photos. Perfect grandchildren from the perfect daughter. Emma and I stood near the entrance. She wore the yellow dress I'd saved 3 months to buy, her dark hair in careful braids. She clutched a wrapped present against her chest. "Mommy, when do I give Grandma her gift?" Emma whispered. "Soon, sweetheart. Let's wait for the right moment." My brother-in-law spotted us first. "Oh, you actually came," he said, not bothering to hide his surprise. "Didn't think you could afford the entry fee to this place." I forced a smile. "It's Mom's birthday. Of course we came." Jennifer approached with her usual concerned expression that never quite reached her eyes. "Sarah, I'm glad you're here. Mom was wondering if you'd show up." She glanced down at Emma. "Oh, you brought her. Her name is Emma. Your niece. Right. Well, try not to let her touch anything. Everything here is quite expensive." Emma's hand tightened in mine. She understood more than people gave her credit for. We made our way to our assigned table, naturally placed at the far corner of the room, away from the family tables. I recognized a few distant cousins who offered polite nods before returning to their conversations. We didn't belong here. We'd never belonged anywhere in this family. The evening proceeded with speeches and toasts. My mother's friends praised her charity work, her volunteer efforts, her dedication to family. I watched Emma's face as my mother spoke about the importance of grandchildren, how they brought such joy to her life, how blessed she was to have such wonderful ones. She gestured to Jennifer's children, who stood and waved as everyone applauded. Emma looked up at me. "Mommy, why didn't Grandma mention me?" "She has a lot of people to thank, honey. I'm sure She forgot about me again." I had no answer for that. Because my mother hadn't forgotten. She'd never acknowledged Emma in the first place. When the cake was brought out, a massive 3-tiered creation decorated with edible flowers, the room erupted in applause. My mother made a show of blowing out the candles, making a wish and cutting the first slice. The servers began distributing pieces to the guests. Emma's eyes lit up. She loved cake, especially chocolate. One of the servers approached our table with slices for the other guests but skipped right past Emma. "Excuse me," I called out. "My daughter didn't get a piece." The server looked uncomfortable. "I was told not to serve that table." "What? Who told you that?" "Ma'am, I'm just following instructions." I felt heat rising in my face. I watched as every other child in the room enjoyed their cake, including Jennifer's children who were on their second slices. Emma sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, trying so hard to be good. I stood up and walked directly to my mother's table. "Mom, Emma would like some cake." My mother barely glanced up from her conversation. "I'm sure there's cake at home. It's your birthday cake. All the other children got a piece." "Well, Sarah, perhaps if you raised your daughter with better manners, she'd be included more often." Nearby conversations quieted. People were listening now. "What are you talking about? Emma has done nothing wrong." My mother set down her fork with deliberate precision. "Last month's family picnic. She refused to play with her cousins. She's shy. She needed time to warm up. And Christmas. She barely said thank you for the gift I sent. She was 3 years old and terrified because you kept commenting on her weight." My mother's expression hardened. "I don't appreciate being spoken to this way at my own party. If you can't be respectful, perhaps you should leave. I just want my daughter to have a piece of cake. Only good grandchildren get treats, Sarah. Maybe when she learns to behave properly in public, she'll be included. Until then, I suggest you teach her some manners." I stood there, shaking with anger and humiliation, aware that dozens of people were watching this exchange. Before I could respond, I felt a small hand slip into mine. Emma had walked up beside me. She looked directly at my mother with those serious brown eyes that saw far too much for a 6-year-old. "Mean grandmas don't deserve happiness," she said clearly. The room went completely silent. My mother's face flushed red. "Excuse me," my mother said, her voice dangerously quiet. Emma didn't flinch. She reached into her dress pocket and pulled out a small wrapped box. "This is why Mommy cries at night." My heart stopped. I hadn't realized Emma knew about those nights. The nights after phone calls with my mother, after family events where we were ignored, after another birthday passed without acknowledgement. I thought I'd hidden it well. Emma held out the box to my mother. "I made you a present. Mommy helped wrap it, but I made it myself. I worked on it for 2 months." My mother stared at the box as if it might explode. Jennifer stood up from her seat. "Emma, sweetie, maybe this isn't the right time." Open it, Emma said simply. Please. The entire room watched as my mother slowly took the box. She unwrapped it with careful movements, lifting the lid. Inside was a handmade card, the kind only a child could create. Construction paper, glitter glue, stick figure drawings. My mother pulled it out. On the front, Emma had drawn two figures holding hands under a rainbow. Inside, in her careful 6-year-old handwriting, it read, "Dear Grandma, I love you even though you don't love me. I hope this makes you happy. Love, Emma." Below that were 12 other cards, one for each month Emma had been making them. Birthday cards. Just because cards. All unsent. All decorated with the desperate hope of a child wanting to be loved by her grandmother. My mother's hands trembled as she looked through them. I saw her face change, saw something crack in her carefully maintained composure. But she quickly recovered, her mask sliding back into place. "How manipulative," she said coldly. "Teaching your daughter to make me feel guilty at my own birthday party. This is exactly the kind of behavior I'm talking about, Sarah. Always the victim, always trying to make me the villain." "I didn't know about the cards," I said quietly. "She made them on her own." "Sure she did. A 6-year-old just happened to create this elaborate guilt trip without any coaching." My mother dropped the cards back into the box. "I won't be emotionally blackmailed by a child." Emma's lower lip trembled, but she didn't cry. She'd learned early not to show weakness around my family. "We'll leave," I said. "Come on, Emma." "Wait." Jennifer's husband stood up, his face unusually serious. "Margaret, I think you should see this." He picked up one of the cards from the box. "This one is dated 8 months ago, long before you even announced this party." He held up another. "This one's from her 5th birthday. She wrote, 'I wish Grandma would come to my party.'" He looked at my mother. "This isn't manipulation. This is a child who desperately wants her grandmother's love." My mother's jaw tightened. "Stay out of this, David." "I can't. Not anymore." He looked around the room. "We've all watched this for years, watching you exclude Sarah and Emma. Making excuses. Pretending it's about manners or respect or anything other than the fact that Sarah didn't marry the man you wanted her to, didn't have the life you planned for her. How dare you?" "Emma is 6 years old," David continued. "She's innocent in whatever issues you have with your daughter. And she's been making these cards, one every month, hoping that maybe this would be the month her grandmother would acknowledge her." Jennifer looked uncomfortable. "David, this is Mom's birthday. Can we not do this now? When should we do it? At Emma's next birthday that no one attends? At party when we all pretend she doesn't exist?" One of my mother's oldest friends, Patricia, spoke up from a nearby table. "Margaret, I've known you for 40 years. This isn't who you are, or at least it's not who you used to be." My mother stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I won't be lectured at my own party. Sarah, take your daughter and leave. You've ruined enough." I bent down to Emma's level. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home." Emma looked at the table full of cake, at her cousins who'd barely acknowledged her existence, at the grandmother who'd rejected her handmade gifts. Then she reached out and took my hand. We walked toward the exit, passing tables of relatives who suddenly found their plates very interesting. I held my head high, refusing to let them see how much this hurt. We were almost to the door when we heard it. "Wait." I turned. My mother stood in the middle of the ballroom, the box of cards in her hands. She looked smaller somehow, older. The emerald dress that had seemed so regal now just looked like a costume. "These cards," she said, her voice barely carrying across the silent room. "You really made these yourself?" Emma nodded. "Every month." Another nod. My mother opened the most recent card again, reading the careful words. "I love you even though you don't love me." She looked up at Emma with something I'd never seen in her eyes before, something that might have been shame. "I do love you," my mother said quietly. "I just forgot how to show it." Emma didn't run to her. She wasn't that naive. She just stood there holding my hand, waiting. "I'm sorry," my mother said. "I'm sorry for the cake. I'm sorry for all of it." Emma considered this for a long moment. Then, in that brutally honest way only children possess, she said, "Sorry isn't magic. It doesn't fix mean." My mother flinched as if she'd been slapped. Around the room, people shifted uncomfortably. Jennifer started to object, but David put a hand on her arm. "You're right," my mother said. It doesn't fix it. But maybe it's a start. Emma looked up at me. I saw the question in her eyes. I couldn't tell her what to do. This had to be her choice. Can I have cake now? Emma asked. A laugh escaped my mother, surprised and genuine. Yes. Yes, you can have cake. We didn't leave. We sat at our corner table while my mother personally brought Emma the biggest slice of cake along with ice cream. She sat down across from us, something she'd never done before. Tell me about school, my mother said to Emma. Emma, with chocolate frosting on her face, told her about her teacher, about learning to read, about her best friend who'd moved away. My mother listened, really listened. I don't know if this moment of clarity would last. I don't know if my mother would wake up tomorrow and remember how to be cruel again. Family patterns, especially toxic ones, don't disappear overnight. But Emma had done something I'd never managed in 32 years. She'd held up a mirror and forced my mother to see herself, not with anger or accusations, but with simple, heartbreaking honesty. As we drove home later, Emma clutching a piece of cake wrapped in a napkin for later, she asked, "Mommy, why do you cry at night?" I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Because I want better for you than I had. Did Grandma make you sad when you were little too? Yes, sweetheart. Emma was quiet for a moment. The cards didn't work, did they? She's not going to change. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. That's okay, Emma said. I have you. That's enough. And somehow, hearing those words from my 6-year-old daughter, I realized she was right. It was enough. More than enough. Whether my mother chose to be part of our lives or not, whether she learned from tonight or retreated back into her cruelty, Emma and I would be fine. We had each other. We had love that didn't come with conditions or requirements. We had truth even when it hurt. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is tell the truth. Sometimes a 6-year-old can see clearly what adults have spent years rationalizing away. And sometimes, mean grandmas don't deserve happiness until they learn to stop being mean. Emma fell asleep on the drive home, the wrapped cake balanced on her lap, a small smile on her chocolate-stained face. She'd stood up to someone who terrified me. She'd spoken truth to power with nothing but honesty and handmade cards. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if my mother would call tomorrow or if we'd go back to being invisible. But I knew that tonight my daughter had shown me what courage looked like. And that was worth more than any piece of cake or family approval could ever be. The gift box sat on the passenger seat, cards scattered inside. 12 months of hope. 12 months of a child's unconditional love offered to someone who'd done nothing to earn it. Mean grandmas don't deserve happiness. But brave little girls who make cards every month hoping for love? They deserve everything.